October Greenways Open Space Committee. I'd like to call a meeting to order at 7:03, and could we please stand and we'll all say the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we call the roll, if you're watching this on television, immediately step outside and take a look at the beautiful sunset and also the rainbow that's in the east. So awesome. So we're appreciative of the auspicious rainbow for us. So I will call the roll at this time. Urbani? Present. Geist?
Here.
Carson?
Here.
Brown?
Here.
Phillips?
Here.
Shelton?
Here.
Robinson? Bartlett? No. And Brock?
Here.
Great. Okay. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda that you have before you? Hopefully everyone received that. It's your white sheet. And I will entertain a motion to approve. So, moved by Mr. Urbani. Do I need a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Carson. Any discussion? All those in favor of the agenda as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against, nay. There are none. Motion pass. You have before you the minutes. They are in green from our regular meeting. No pun intended. Are there any additions or deletions from the minutes that you are aware of?
Mr. Stevenson, I just would like to, under encroachment updates,
Yes.
where Amanda Phillips shared the encroachment policy developed by the GIN&amp.
Right, she did. So instead of will be, shared, past tense. Is there any other additions or deletions? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes from our regular meeting of 9/2/25.
As amended.
As amended. Thank you, Mr. Geist. Thank you, Mr. Geist, for doing a great job on the minutes. Was that a motion, Mr. Geist, to approve the minutes?
I guess,
Yes.
if I can do such,
You can.
since I wrote them.
Right. Is there a second?
Aye.
Second, Ms. Phillips, any further discussion? All those in favor of the minutes from the regular meeting as amended, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? No. At this time, we have our public comment, and I know it's raining a little bit, but are there anyone in the audience who would like to make a public comment at this time, limited to 3 minutes? Hearing none. We also know our next area is the presentations, and does anybody have a presentation that you'd like to do impromptu? If not, there are no presentations. Our first discussion item was the dump the junk, find a treasure, and an after action review, and I can just give a little brief commentary on that, and then I'll turn it over to the committee to talk a little bit about it. We held our one and only for this year, because of the bridge closures, on our Dump the Junk, Find a Treasure on September 6th from 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock, so we limited it by an hour. And in some cases, we could not have accepted any more items at all, either in terms of treasures or stuff that people were discarding. We had 325 vehicles made visits to there. Thanks again to Scott Ryan and assisting at the gate. We had about more than 150 treasure seekers, people who came and either dropped off or who took items as they're able to do so or as they want. We filled 18 dumpsters, large dumpsters provided by Priority Waste. That certainly comes out of our budget, as we will see, but that's one of our expenditures for this year. We did have, I want to thank everyone on the committee and your spouses, if they were present, for helping with that and make that a successful day. Also, certainly Derek Thiel, our DPS manager, as well as John Keim and Lorenzo Pizzo, Donna Deppa, and Karen Karp, who were instrumental in helping to organize and to work throughout the day. So that was a great event. I guess when we do these after-action reviews, we ask some questions like, did it serve its purpose? What was the purpose, and did it serve its purpose? What did we do that you thought was particularly good, and what do we need to improve upon? So I can open it up to the committee and maybe give us your observations, and we can share that with our viewing public.
Well, I have one observation. I think Bert was more involved in about where people want to store their treasures.
Yes.
You know, that, I think there was an issue somewhere about some of it was stored somewhere, or I don't know, there's an issue with it. So I think because people tend to stay all day and, store and then look and store some more, so
Right.
some kind of cubicle or something.
So are you, so go ahead, any comment on that? So you're saying, go ahead.
Right, they had set up camp in the northeast corner of the lot, but then the township staff needed that space to turn around their equipment and stuff, so they had to vacate that. So
Right.
if we could find another place, maybe just further to the south or something.
Right.
I guess I'm not sure I understand what you mean. They were finding stuff they wanted and just setting them aside within the gates.
Right.
Yeah, yes, that's one of the things they do.
Well, considering that there's not a whole lot of room to begin with, is that something that we want to encourage or maybe discourage? And that is, if you pick it up, make arrangements, take it outside the gates and, set it someplace else so it doesn't
Yeah, put it in
congest
their vehicles.
what we have. It's just a question. I don't know.
Taking
Chris.
notes, so you guys talk. I'm good with.
Well, I think we have enough room because there's a lot of space. But we need to check it out with John and others, whether the space that's not allotted to treasures but still on that
Right.
side, whether that's.
Well,
usable.
you're thinking more of the southeast corner? South,
Right,
okay,
right.
the southeast corner. There's an area there as they make that turn around on the back end of the lot where sometimes people store. They shouldn't park there.
Right.
And what people generally do, as you know, is they find something they like, and rather than hauling it to their car or hauling it to, a trailer, they put it aside, and then they see something else, and they get that, and they kind of like, literally, you say it correctly, they're camping out.
It gets rid of a lot more stuff than if they're going back and forth.
Yes, I would think so. The other issue with that, however, is that it's a question of they're camping out, and sometimes it might hinder the free movement of vehicles that are going back and forth, so.
So is the question that whether or not we want to have people camping out all day long? Or is the question determining a space for them because they do show up every year or twice a year? Every event, I guess, anyway. Like, do we designate an area like, oh, okay, if you want to stay here for a certain amount of time, have a designated space where they can either park, or we ask them to park outside if they want to collect? Do we set up an enforcement process of it being in a safe area? I guess I'm just trying to understand what
I
our
think we
goal
do
would be
ask them.
for the people who are there all day long, I guess.
I think we do ask them to park outside. I think some were parking there and then they had to move their cars, but if we, just say you
Yeah,
can't park inside.
Made an announcement that we were going to tow them, so I guess they got the message on that.
Right. But,
I mean,
yeah,
I think, we generally have, at least since I've been doing it, and those of you who have been around longer in this with dump to junk, we allow people to pull stuff aside and stay, rather than, okay, get your items and go, and at least we have. So I guess the question arises, is it to that great extent that we need to change it? Or we need to,
Well, it's up for discussion, I just thought.
well, that's what, no, that's what we're
Just,
doing, that's why I'm
yeah,
trying to
just-
facilitate that.
I was aware of it,
Mhm.
and thought it should be
No,
discussed.
no, I'm listening. I said I'm taking notes.
I think what I heard a moment ago, though, was part of the concern is the flow of traffic. Is that right?
Right,
So how to navigate those individuals doesn't sound like it's a hindrance, really. It's just more, we just need to be mindful of traffic flow. So maybe it's just more of setting some boundaries around how we're going to have traffic flow.
right.
I guess,
I think,
right?
you know,
Yeah.
personally, I think we do a pretty good job with
Oh, yeah.
traffic flow. I think, you know, people that are working on the junk side in terms of helping out, we're always telling them go one way. We don't have people going against traffic. You know, they have to go behind the building and around. There's not a whole lot. We try to move them along as best as we can, so I don't think that's the issue. It's just a question of, you know, at any given time, you know, safety is a primary concern. You don't want somebody walking in front of another car because they're too, you know, oh, I see a chair I'm going to get, you know,
Sure.
so.
Yeah, just up for discussion.
But no, that's fine. I'm just making some notes on that. What else? Anything else that you thought we did or needs improvement, or you thought we did particularly well?
Also, I thought John Leon's signs were really great
I
for
did too.
designating area for certain things. It was
Mm-hmm.
really helpful.
Completely agree.
Right. So that was very helpful.
Yeah, I think we need to have some conversation maybe before the next one to figure out the best categories.
Right, because you want to try to make it, you know, help. It helps everybody if they know exactly where stuff is at. So it's almost like you have a prior inventory, or at least an area that's designated, and that, you know, that can be mapped out. But that was very helpful. Thank you, Bert and John, for doing that.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. I think the fact that we had 18 dumpsters that were full of junk, you know, construction materials, more wood this year, I think, than we maybe ever had. I think we had 62 tires, so that, you know, we had, in which we have, they don't end up in the open spaces. But always concrete, things of that nature. So I think that was, so the day itself, but literally, I think, are we all in agreement that by 3 o'clock, I mean, everything was full. We just had no more room for anything, you know, to be honest with you.
And we still need to solve the issue of what to do with the good stuff that nobody has taken by the end of the day.
Yes, I agree.
You know,
I
that's
totally
just-
agree, because it kind of breaks our heart everybody feels bad about that. At the end of the day, it's going to go into a dumpster. So if it wasn't claimed, or if it wasn't, you know, sought by somebody who thinks that was a treasure, or can repurpose it or recycle it somehow, it gets tossed, okay? And that's, you know, that's a crime in many ways. It just cries out. I do know we have tried in the past, well, maybe this is something we got to look at too. This was kind of unusual because we only had one, not two of them, okay? So normally you have one in the spring, which I think if this group approves, we'll have another one in the spring. And we have one in the fall. We always try to coordinate it with like the St. James rummage sale, okay? So we can kind of like, some of the stuff couldn't be hauled. Literally, we have trailers, or we can get trailers and we've done that in the past, but there was a gap between our September 6th event and St. James, I believe, just finished their rummage sale this last past weekend. So maybe if we keep it a little closer to that will help. I know Cass Community Services does not like pick up on Saturdays, okay? So they can't get drivers, or their program generally looks for like smaller pieces of good furniture that can be used in their homes, because they specialize in building like smaller homes for people who are either homeless or need the help in that regard. So that's a difficulty. We know we had, like, was it last year or year before last, we had problems with Salvation Army. We had a list of everything they accepted, and then, you know, from the manager, oh yeah, that's all good. And so we went after our Saturday dump the junk, and we had some of the
We had
goods gonna be.
neighbors doing that.
Yeah, the neighbor was trying to help us out and drop it off, and then, the workers, oh, no, we don't accept that. It's right on their list. It's like, hello. Okay, but they, so I don't know what we did, went in somebody's garage. We do have the capability, at least we were able to have the capability of maybe storing some, but again, it's a question of if we have that, you still need workers and, transportation to load it up and take it over to one of the township buildings, so we were able to, we're able to do that, okay, or at least we were able to, we had got authorization to do that, so that might be something. That also means it's a longer day for DPS workers, it's a longer day for our volunteers. But anything else on dump the junk, find the treasure?
There's another recommendation I think I heard floated about having safety vests for all the volunteers, so it's
Yeah.
very easy to identify who's
Yep.
actually working the event.
Sorry
I think
about
that's a grand idea,
Yes,
actually, on a
that
few
can
levels.
easily be taken care of. We'll make sure we put that as an action item and procure some, so we can have a safety vest. It's okay. Valid points. Anything else on dump to junk, find a treasure? April or May looks like a good time to do one for the 2026. Yes? So, and again, we'll have to kind of gauge that based on, okay, who's available, what can DPS do, what's the bridge circumstances like, so we'll make it happen though.
So we'll start looking at some April dates.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So sometimes, maybe mid-April and
No,
then,
I would encourage late April, maybe early May,
yeah, yes.
just from the weather
Because of
standpoint.
weather, yeah.
St. James.
Their rummage sale
Mandy,
is
do you know
May,
when they
isn't it?
have the spring
Usually the first weekend in May.
first weekend of May? There you go. That may help. Okay, good. Anything else on dump to junk, find a treasure? James, you want to maybe talk a little bit about encroachment updates or mitigation, things you know, or if
There's
not, I
really
can.
been no updates on my part in that sense. I believe it was just we were waiting on some members to go out and take looks on some of the properties, waiting to see if that they were adequate, everything that was done to some of the specific properties, wait to see if it was adequate or not, or if it needed to be adjusted in any sort of way. But a part of that, nothing major on it.
I did go so that you all know. And it kind of just happened. I was available, and I didn't put something out. It was somewhat spur of the moment. But I went with Ross Quiro, who is helping to manage the enforcement aspect of it. And we went to most of the sites. Okay, we went to all the sites, and with one exception, a question of there was still a 4th Street issue with a fire pit that was still on open space, and we personally talked to the owner, and she assured us that that would be removed. Okay, so with that in mind, so there is at least that. We also Mickey Bartlett and I met with. Is it Davy, who is the tree specialist for the property up on Voight, about what to do in terms of trying to mitigate the situation where we had some residents cut down trees. Now we're trying to restore our property with the trees. We're in the process, Davy is in the process of like mapping it out, and at least so they saw the site, they made some recommendations. They're gonna give us a choice of like what type of trees would be best suited. I can tell you right now, so if they cut down, let us say, an oak sapling in an area, we may not put up an oak sapling there, only from the standpoint is that the upper canopy is so developed that it makes it difficult. So we want to see something that might be better suited for that area, and so that's kind of in the process of what we're doing in that regard. So we're waiting on Davy to come back with their plan on that one particular. I do also know that on one of the 4th Street properties, on our property, I think Mickey went out with John Keim and some folks for DPS, and I think they were looking at planting acorns, okay, in like, in a certain in certain areas. So if you walk through that area, like on 4th Street, or you go like you're heading towards Centennial Farm, through that path, and you come out on the 4th Street little exit there, you can look to the right. There's at least some areas of open space that have been at least kind of churned up, and now there's been some oak, at least acorns. But and again, oaks grow pretty fast, but it's going to be a long time, obviously, before you get it to the point where it's like, oh, these are pretty good-sized trees. Derek Thiel did suggest to us, I think he talked to his father in some cases, who's a tree expert, in terms of like, it might be better to do, like, get some saplings and, put them, or at least get them to where they're, a 1-inch or a larger established tree in order to plant in those areas. I can also say that we are the Greenways Open Space Committee, okay, and part of these areas that are like abut the woods are purposely designed, okay? So when they built these neighborhoods, or when they built some of these properties, there's a natural berm or a natural kind of green space. So a lot of times your property might end, but the woods aren't immediately at your property. There is an area of, access or ingress or egress, sometimes with you, and again, that's that's still open space, but it's the Greenway entrance or the Greenway approach, and so at least that's where we're at. But again, encroachment is a very serious issue, and how it's handled through the township and the process. We're still trying to do our best in order to obviously prevent it and do the best we can in that. So any comment about, yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I would just like to commend the township and this committee for actually becoming more active and more involved in the encroachment issue, because it's something that has not been attended to, I think, for some time. And I really appreciate the township and James and the more efforts that people are making, and that you and Mickey and Ray and people that have gone. I couldn't go that when you went that Friday, but anyway, just really want to commend everybody involved for going forward and dealing with this, because it's difficult, it's hard, and we're finding that out, I think.
Yeah. Any other comments or?
I have a question here. When you talk about planting seedlings or saplings and that, are we providing any kind of protection for them to grow?
That would go with it. Okay. Yeah. I forget what they call it, but one of the things that they would do whenever they establish trees, and maybe you guys know better than I, at the base of the tree, there's some sort of I want to call it a halo, if nothing else, okay, that goes at the base of the tree. Okay. And is generally like to help to water it. So you have to fill it up, but it also is like a slow release over the course of a couple of weeks or a week that they provide. So yeah, so I was like, at first I had heard something of that nature, as opposed to, okay, every day you got to go out and water, or every other day. So
but I'm also thinking along the lines of or fencing or some kind of screening, because
yes,
otherwise they'll become
food
for the deer.
Food for the deer, or people if
Food.
yeah, very easily knocked over or killed.
Well, any acorn that sprouts is going to be eaten. I mean, that's
Yeah.
unless you have a million.
Yeah.
'Cause I know that from planting very small trees at some of the power plants.
Right.
And we lost a lot of them. But the Greening of Detroit has a plastic shield that kind of knits together, and they put around a small tree.
Sure.
To protect it from, even mice and stuff in the winter.
Right. Anything else on the encroachments or mitigation? Good. I think Yolanda was the one that at least brought it to our attention But I know, I had a conversation with Derek Thiel and also John Keim, and then, there was a day you weren't available, Ray, probably that same day I was out in the field, and, we walked the Parkway Macomb Trail and, the whole length of it. And we identified the areas like closest to the old Playscape area that needs a culvert, culverts in different areas in different places there. So rather than, we were talking, the last time we met, we were talking about moving that big bridge and stuff like that, and it was the contractor at that time, had this very narrow window to do it, number one, and our meeting is today, and this would, his window was closed, he couldn't do it. The other part was the question of the cost, in order to do it. So we were looking at a more cost-effective plan, and so John Keim thought that, this could happen. And Yolanda, why don't you tell everybody, because you alerted, I think, all of us, and I went out just the other day.
Oh, on Sunday when, well, yeah, I saw that the gravel was put over on Parkway, right? And when I went to go walk on Sunday morning, it was around 9 a.m., 9 or 9:30 a.m., I saw that there was someone out there with a front loader that was bringing those. And now I haven't gone back out since to see where all the gravel was placed, but there was someone there working on it.
It was working.
So, yeah, we just got to get back out there and
Yep.
make sure it's
Well, I
or
did.
it's
I
useful.
did
And
go the
today's
other
a great
day
day
as
for
I
that,
was,
actually, or tomorrow.
um,
Yeah.
about my business, and then next thing you know, I pulled in and I saw that. So the gravel was gone. That was the big pile. So if you go across from, is it Woodside?
Yes.
Across from Woodside, and you head north. So the trail is, I would say, a third of the way completed. So the area from Parkway midway through, or a third of the way through to Macomb, is gravelled and widened. So the next step would be to, and again, I talked to Derek Thiel and John Keim about this, we need to extend that in, some places may not need it because it's higher elevation, but certainly the low areas may need to have, some gravel down, and then we're gonna put, as we have in the Ferry Gauge Trail, we'll put wood chips on top of it to a thickness that makes a very nice path. So that's our goal and has been. And we did allocate, people should know, we allocated those funds like already months ago, So we approved up to, $5,000, which we're able to do to make that happen. But it's happening, and that's the nice part. So if you get a chance, get out there, You can walk your dog, Potato can go all the way.
I was thinking, actually, because as I was walking around, I recall how it was last spring when we surveyed it together, and it was very, very muddy. And as I was walking, it wasn't muddy last weekend, but I could feel all of the divots from footsteps and the deer coming through and us coming through, whatever it may be. And so I'm assuming that this is me not knowing really about how to build trails. So these are where my questions are. So the gravel is intended to be a first layer.
Yes.
And then another layer above
Yes,
that.
yes.
And then hopefully,
Right.
if there's lots of rain, it'll actually kind of slide off the sides of the newly formed trail then? Is that what we're doing?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Or at least it'll be porous enough that it can, go through, but still maintain the base.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome.
So if you've been on the Ferry Gauge Trail, and I suspect some of you have, that's exactly how we did the Ferry Gauge Trail, and that's a pretty solid trail still. Good. Anything else on that? So that's happening, and the sooner, particularly we just got some rain today, but it's been awfully dry, so the sooner we get that done, I would like to think, before the snow flies, the better. So, but it's happening. And again, that's also all in keeping with the master plan that we are working towards, at least to be, maybe ahead of the game, to get greater connectivity on Grosse Ile. So we're working towards that.
I'd also like to comment on how nice the new signs look
Yes.
on the trails. I mean, and I think the entrances look a lot better. very gauge,
Yeah,
especially.
no, I think so too.
Yeah, it's a lot better.
Remind me, even though it's not on here, speaking of signs, one of the things I'll put it on our next agenda as a discussion item, maybe even an action item. I'll talk about it anyway, even though it's not on the agenda per se, but it's in relationship to this. On many of our trails, particularly in the Meridian Woods, we're making all these great trails, but also, we need some trail markers. Like first off, like those little arrows, like go this way, not this way, go this way, not this way. We also need like some sort of rustic or some sort of signage that shows like, either, a compass rose to show you what direction you're going, or a question of, East River's this way. If you take this trail, you're going to end up to East River, okay? You take this trail, you're going to end up, this is a dead end. You can't take this trail because it's going to be in somebody's backyard and you're not going to cut through. If you take this trail, you're going to go back to the main Meridian Woods Trail, okay? So I think we'll talk, it's not on the agenda, but I think we can talk about it and then, get something going on that, however we can do it. I'm thinking more rustic than, since it's in the middle of the woods, you don't want to have one of our, metal signs that way. But if that's the pleasure of the group, then that's something we could do. But you know what I'm talking, that people could get lost. If you take a look at your next item here, number 4, budget review and our recent expenses. Should be white, and you got a bunch of purple sheets. If you look at the first page, you will notice to the right-hand side for 2025, 2026, our total budget, monies that we have budgeted, was $40,500. So if you take a look at that, you also realize that we try to be fairly frugal in budgeting our money and managing our money, managing the citizens' money. It's a question of, we spent, for example, we're looking at tree cutting and removal, $12,000. Well, I want to tell you right now that either because of the weather or conditions or trees have died or that, we'll look at another page. We are way over our budget in terms of expenditures when it comes to like tree removal or maintaining the safety of our trails for that. And actually to the tune of right now, to date, we have spent like $17,050 on tree removal and trail maintenance in terms of undercut brush and things of that nature. We probably have, and I'll tell you right now, we probably have another $4,000 certainly coming in from taking care of some trees that were a serious issue on the Ferry Gauge Trail. And there's also trees that we just got a bid on 4th Street needed like a trimming on an area. And then on Wood up on the north by the Presbyterian Church, there's several trees that are on open space property that are dead and are large and are leaning on people's property, but also over all the power lines that are there. But it's on open space, and so we just got a bid. So that's like another $6,000. So we're looking at another $10,000. Now, you could argue that, okay, you're $17,000 more than you've budgeted, but I guess if we look at trail maintenance, that that you can, even though we didn't identify it as tree cutting, that may be it can be characterized as that. But I'll come back to it because I'll tell you what the solution is on that. I also can tell you that for dump the junk priority waste, we budgeted $8,000 for that, and we have consistently. The price of poker has just gone up when it comes to dump the junk. It's now like, and we only had one, but if you look at the next page, you'll see that when it comes to dump the junk and priority waste, it's like $5,000 now. So it's like, oh. So if you go to the first purple page, this is from April 1st to the end of September, what we have spent so far. So this year, for fiscal year, we have spent $31,713.08. The vast majority of that expenditure is for removing dead trees or trees that are safety hazards. You also, if you take a look at the second from last at the bottom there, it says dump the junk roll-off containers. That's from Priority Waste, $5,120 and $50. So normally they were like $4,000. So they also have increased. Now I don't know why. I don't have an answer because I just received this myself. But that's where we're at. Any questions on at least on that?
And it's the last time scrap disposal, that's the tires, scrap tires, right? That's
Yeah.
silver lining.
Yes, yeah, and I think they've upped the price on, because that used to be like about $120. So that's increased. If you turn the page, if you go all the way to at least the bottom lines, which is I guess what we're looking at, the bottom lines, in the left-hand column where it says 2025-26 amended budget, there's our $40,500. Year-to-date balance, that's what we've spent, $31,713. Activity for the month, that's just what's come in for the month of September. And if you look all the way over where it says amount of budget used, 78.3% of our budget. So we have already used 78.3% of our budget of $40,500.
Okay, but in our budget, shouldn't we be taking into account any revenues that come in to offset that?
We do and we don't. Okay, when we budget, we don't necessarily roll that into our budget per se, because I think we're not, or at least we haven't, but we're not guaranteed, or we're not absolutely sure how much that's going to be. And it has been in the past. You know, it's been as high as like $16,000. All of a sudden, we've got $16,000. Where'd that come from? Well, all of our monies, township-wise, goes into one big investment pool up in Lansing or somewhere for municipalities, and so it's then distributed by a formula that Teresa McLaughlin knows to us. And so so the answer is yeah, Ray. I think we can put that in.
Or at least, if nothing else, keep track of that in terms of our overall fund balance. Yes,
Right.
we want to keep our spending within a certain range,
Right.
but also keep in mind that.
But what I'm saying is,
Yeah.
you take a look at what available funds we have. You know, we're not looking at, we're under $10,000. When you have $10,000 still out there, like just in terms of tree removal. If you turn the page, one more.
Go
Go ahead.
back to that. Usually we get some credit for scrap. I mean, I don't see that. Is that something that hasn't been
I don't think it has
processed
been.
yet?
It hasn't been processed.
Okay.
It hasn't been posted. Yep. All right. Last page. So here's our money in the bank. So we have 7,366 money in the bank. The MBIA class, that's a municipal bureau, investment fund that the township puts it. So that's where a lot of our money is. And contrary to popular belief, and I think you guys know this better than I, that, when you have money in funds, it's not like, oh, they're in that back little room over there. You just go in and take some money out and then we'll pay our bills. I mean, it's, it's set aside, or it's put aside. And I don't know where it says due from accounts payable, but when you look at our total assets and where it says total liabilities and fund balance, the absolute bottom line here, because the beginning fund was 159 and now we're down to 137.41.80. That's what we have left out of the maintenance fund for open space.
I'm not sure that's the case. I think that's both funds.
Oh, you're saying the,
I
you're
think
saying the
that-
20,000
I think that includes, yeah, the roughly 20,000 for
in
acquisition.
the acquisition. Yep. So that would be
So we're probably closer to 110,000.
10,000. We'll have to check. Any questions?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
I don't know what we have that's revenue generating. And I know you already said you don't know why we have a line item due from accounts payable.
I wish I did, okay.
So I think that's
revenue
important to
here's the-
understand.
I can tell you revenue generating. When we have dumped the junk, the scrap, we have that one big thing that's scrap. Fritz Enterprises processes it, takes them time to do it, and then they turn around, they send us a check. So
That's
that comes
awesome.
back as-
Okay.
That comes back as revenue. That's money that obviously we never had based on scrap metal.
Okay.
The other part that comes is that the monies that they have set aside for open space are, they're invested.
Which is different from accounts payable.
Difference from accounts payable, right. So I can ask, I will ask tomorrow, like,
What is that
What is
about?
that?
Okay.
I agree. Because I just got this today myself, so.
Yeah.
Just for clarification, our fiscal year is through the end of March, is that
Yes,
correct?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we start April 1.
Another question, you had mentioned doing tree clearing for DT right-of-way or easements. Why would the green space cover that cost?
Probably because it's on our property.
But it's their easement or their right-of-way.
Well, but from my understanding, it is close enough, I guess, to the property owners that it would come out of our account. That's,
Have we approached DT to see if they would come take care of those trees?
we have not. I guess we maybe should. Or find out. I mean, wait.
Good idea.
I know they spend
They,
in excess of probably $100 million on tree clearing, and that's,
right. Oh, I know what you're saying. I also know that I was walking my dog the other day on my street, and there was a guy from Esplund there, and it was in the right of way, but it was also, it was like an imminent threat to their the property owner's property also. So, and again, it was not an open space; it was in their right of way, and so.
okay. Anywhere where
No,
DT
no,
puts
I agree.
their
That's-
wires, they have an easement or they have a right-of-way
Right.
for it.
They're
Or-
responsible.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, no, I get it. Anything else? So what we all maybe should be aware is that, the millages, historically, going back to the 90s, there's been two funds that have been established, were established when you had the Greenways Open Space Committee. First one was on property acquisition, and that was like a 1 mil, property tax, if it were a tax, not property tax, but it was a 1 mil tax that was collected on residents. And the maintenance fund was a 1/4 mil, okay, 0.25 of a mil. And a mil is $1 per assessed value of, $1,000 of your home. So how that kind of plays out. But, so over the course of the years, okay, we have not, the acquisition fund is now down to, as Ray pointed out, $20,000. So we still have over that, but we have not assessed anymore. The millage expired years and years ago, okay? The maintenance millage, and at least my understanding I have, the last time we collected any maintenance millage, the 1/4 mil, was 2011. So that's 14 years, okay? So we've had a fund that we have collected over the course of time, and the acquisition fund is now down to $20,000. The maintenance fund, even for a 1/4 million, okay, now we're maintaining more. That's down to, let's say, 110 or 130, depending on how we look at this. So one of the questions arises that, okay, well, what happens if we have a budget, when we put this budget together, it was $11,000 different than what we had the year before. Everybody aware, be aware of that, right? So we purposely said that, but also a couple things happened. We're doing more trees than we ever have. We're doing enforcement, Mandy, that you commended us on, we're doing enforcement. But if we have to go out and assess the property or have to survey the property, that's a cost that we incur, the township incurs. It comes out of our budget. So, at the end of the day, do we put before you a resolution to amend, budgets are dynamic, can be, or should be in some cases. What are you gonna do? You have emergency funds on your own home. The bottom line is you gotta draw, the roof is leaking, you gotta fix the roof, right? So somewhere along the line, we have the money. The money is there in this little pile here to, the $130,000 to $110,000. It's just a question of, okay, in order to pay our bill at the end of the year, how do they do that? I believe the township does it at the end of December. Any kind of reconciliation when it comes to, budget overruns or things of that nature. So I just want to bring it to your attention. But any other questions or comment? But this is the first time in at least recent memory, Bert, I don't know, when's the last time we were over budget?
I don't think we have it.
I don't think we have been.
Right.
Right.
And we were very risk averse to putting up a millage because of
Right.
tax aversion.
Because of tax aversion, right, people don't like that. And would it be a renewal? No, this would be like this is something, it's a segue, but any question about this? I mean, I'm not an accountant, I'm not, but I do, but there are some very valid questions, like why isn't DTE paying for this if it's in a right of way?
Where is that expense charged from GTE? Do we have a line item for that, or is?
No, not that I know of.
Okay. So how do we know that they're charging us for that?
They're not.
Oh.
No, they're not. I think, Bob, restate your point.
Well, you had mentioned that was it 6,000
Yeah.
that we were going to potentially pay, we have not paid yet,
Because the work
to
hasn't been done
remove
either.
trees
Right.
that are over DT lines. So my comment was, DT should most likely pay for that, not the green space, or.
Right.
So before we go out and do that tree removal, let's see if there's an alternative other than our budget to pay for it.
Right, so okay.
Right.
Potential future liabilities, I
Yeah,
understand.
right,
now. Okay.
right.
I can also just say for any trees that may be hanging over power lines, even if they're not, like the power lines may be in the easement, but the tree itself, because I deal with a lot of the calls coming from homeowners about concerns about trees that may be falling on any of their property or anything such. I inform TNT. They go out and do an investigation, say, okay, the tree is in open space territory, it is dead, and it is leaning, let's say, on towards someone's property. So in the sense of it being over the DTE lines, it could be in a sense of, because I can't 100% remember if this is an exact situation of this, but it could have been coming from open space, like from the territory of open space, but leaning, and where it would have fell would have been over DTE lines. So understanding that if it was maybe in an easement, that DTE, for DTE's lines and everything, then they would remove it. But since it's from the open space, like territory, that's why they may come to us and say that we need to remove it because it's not their property. It's the open space's property, why it needs to be removed because it's falling from us.
Right. We'll pursue this, but go ahead.
No, I was going to say, but when they've done the massive clearings in the last couple of years, they went through people's backyards and they were trimming off people's trees that were leaning into their area, and they weren't charging people for that.
And that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying this is 100% sure. I'm just saying this from how I deal with, getting calls from homeowners in the sense of if it's coming from an open space territory, that it does have to come from the open space budget.
Maybe
and that may be the situation here, but I'm not
here's
guaranteeing
at least
that.
my observation. Okay. Here's the tree on open space. DTE's easement doesn't start until where the projector is. That's the start. It goes on the other side of the doorway. If this tree falls, okay, and it's not only going to wipe out the power line, it's going to wipe out the house that's behind it, okay? And it has, these are So, okay, is DTE, I mean, I'm gonna find out. I don't like spending people's, my money either, you know, so it's a question of, but that's a very valid point, but it's a question of, that's my understanding. That's the thing. So it's on open space. If it should fall, it's gonna hit the power line and it's gonna hit the house. Okay, so now I get a huge issue, so.
Yeah, and there's a difference between the two, because quite honestly, in our power rates, we are paying basically for DTE to clear, do tree clearing to protect their properties and investments. Whereas in a township, we don't have anything set up, budgeted. It says we have money specifically set aside to take care of trees that could damage personal property and that. So there is a difference between the two of those. We are paying for DTE to do tree clearing to protect their power lines. And whether it's our tree or one from your backyard lean into it, they have a right to go in there and cut whatever they feel is necessary to protect their assets.
Right, I mean, standard line clearance for DTE is 10 feet on either side. And during the height of the emerald ash borer situation, you know, most ash trees are already gone. But they were falling rapidly after they were dead and from farther distances. But, you know, National Arborist standards are 10 feet in a certain way of cutting it.
Right,
But
right, okay,
And
good.
just one more thing to address, how you had mentioned that they had homeowners who they were cutting some of their trees because they were like leaning over and they wanted to cut them. In our ordinance, because we do deal with this with neighbors plenty, if, let's say, me and you were neighbors and my tree was leaning over, you're allowed to cut anything on your property in that sense. So that may have been, and again, I'm not guaranteeing it, but that may have been why they weren't charging the homeowners, because due to the ordinance, they are allowed to just cut those. They didn't charge the homeowners, they just did it themselves.
You know.
And the only difference would be the tree being up in open space. It's not leaning, so they can't legally cut it, which is why they're like, hey, it's a concern. Again, it's a concern, it's dying, it's going to fall. It's not on their property, so they can't address it. They're going to have us address it, because if we don't, it could fall and take out so much. But again, that's just
No, I agree.
an understanding from my point of view,
Yes.
at least.
Anything else on budget and our recent expenditures? So I guess the bottom line in all of this, if, rather than pass an amended budget per se, no, we're just gonna spend, no, but rather than, no, don't take that seriously. I believe at the end of the 2025, there's a budget reconciliation process that the township does for the entire township, and to make the budget whole. Okay, so we have the money. It's not like we're deficit spending. We don't have the money. We're spending money we don't have. We have the money. We just didn't originally budget it for 25, 26 because our expenditures obviously got a little out of whack due to a number of factors. That makes sense? Any other question or comment?
25, 26, that's a fiscal year, like from when to when? Or is it 2 calendar years?
It's from April 1st to March 30th.
Okay.
Yep. And generally, here's the other thing, is that generally in the winter months, we generally, unless there's a big storm or something of that nature, you know, that puts down a lot of trees, we don't have a lot of expenditures. You know, our expenditures are coming like in the spring and the fall. Okay, which brings us to number 5, and again, I just alluded to it, but in terms of, you know, somewhere down the line between now and the I guess foreseeable future, we have to start talking to the township about a millage proposal, because even if we, so let's just say, all right, we're only spending, let's just say we're spending $50,000 a year, and you have $110,000 or $130,000. Well, been nice working with you guys, but it's like, you know, this is a great program. Sorry, it's over, but I don't think that's what residents want. Okay. As a matter of fact, when they were doing the survey, the number 1 and 2 items that most Grosse Ile residents want are greater access to the water and preservation of open maintenance and maintenance of open space. So those are the top two. And so that's something, and when you have 600 acres of open space preserves, sometimes that's what we have, and that's what we have to deal with. So, but again, we're not the only one in terms of the quality of life on Grosse-Ile. There are many other, groups and part of our township government that we, obviously have some needs also. So, I just want to put that out there in terms of, I can say this, that last year when we were looking at millages, 1.1 mil would bring in like $824,000 a year, passage of that throughout the township. So in 2024, if we're looking at any group or association, and that's what I was looking at, 1.1 mil would generate $800,000. So 1 mil would generate, like, let us say, a tenth less than that, obviously. So it'd be $700 and some thousand. Okay, that's for 1 mil. We generally, for the maintenance fund, have asked for 0.25. Okay, so when you're looking at 0.25 of $750,000, so you're looking at a quarter of that. That would well serve our purpose when it comes to maintenance of open space for several years. But that's just like for 1 year. Usually millages are anywhere 3 to 5. So we have to work with the township and have to work with the citizenry and have to work with, if we have to have a budget campaign, that's something that we have to, or a millage campaign, that's something we have to look to.
Just
So-
out of curiosity, what's the timeline of that typically? Like,
Well, and again, depending on, when you're looking at like police or fire millages, okay, these are monies that obviously how you help fund these items, okay? It's, usually they're anywhere from 3 to 5 years. So when they're taxed, the residents tax themselves, approve, yeah, we think this is a valid exercise, and we're willing to pay for that, we're willing to do that. And so usually it's 3 to 5. In some cases, when we know we have like the schools passed a 30-year bond issue, which is different than a millage, but again, it's, can only use for those specific purposes, but that's over the course of 30 years in order to like rebuild buildings and rebuild, restructure their whole campuses, okay? So that's that the residents were willing to say, yeah, we will do that because we value education, we value our property values, and we value that. So we're able to do that. So it varies, but generally I would say anybody else, very rarely, I don't think you've had a millage where it's only gonna expire like after a year or two. I mean, because there's enough to get, it's enough to get them passed in the first place on time. Renewals generally have a very high percentage of being approved because people are already paying it. Okay, they don't. But any new millages are generally more difficult.
So it's a mistake to let things,
What's that?
it's a mistake to let millages end.
Oh, I agree. I totally agree. Because many times you do, they're done. You're done. Yep, we get it.
Oh, and one of the things we've talked about before, and I'm sure we're probably still looking that way, is to be basically, I guess for lack of a better term, a combined millage, which would not restrict it to either strictly maintenance or to acquisition, much like the original ones were. That if we found a particular piece of property that checked all our boxes, so to speak, we could purchase it out of our funds instead of having a separate set of money set aside. That avoids the issue that we have right now with that $20,000 that specifically is meant for purchasing land, but there's nothing we can do, realistically do with it. But if we pass something like this millage, then that money actually, if we did find a piece of property, then finally that last chunk of money could be utilized for that. It gives us a little more flexibility. On that. Not that we're looking to buy land, but it gives us that option.
I agree. Any other question or comment about that? So,
Well, we could look into what other groups are thinking about passing a millage, whether,
Mhm.
you know, bike paths or something, and
Right,
and combine it as a quality of life millage or something,
I know BPAC
right?
has been kicking around
right.
a proposal, but I don't think I've heard anything definitive when they wish to go for that.
Right.
But I also would suggest that, yeah, we're talking maybe with the way we're spending money now, about 3 years that we have this money, that go out sooner for it, because if we run into some road bumps or it gets denied, then we'll have to make some significant adjustments to how we manage the rest of
Right.
our monies and that, so, you know, so maybe as early as next year, again, dependent, like
Mhm.
Bert says, dependent upon who else is looking for funding.
Well, and two, I think the open space was on the master plan was the main priority of residents to maintain open space, and that's a really good selling
Right.
point
Oh,
for a
absolutely.
millage.
Oh, no.
You know, I think we need to talk about that a little bit more, about what a priority is of residents, so that a millage would be, I don't know how this process works, but, you know, to get a millage approval.
Oh,
yeah.
absolutely.
And
No.
and that's a good point, and not to sound callous, but, you know, while it's fresh in everybody's mind, to sit there and take it to them and say, hey, this is what you asked us, you want the island to be at, so this is what we need you to do for us, so we can meet those objectives
Yeah,
and goals that you've
yeah,
laid out for
yeah.
us.
Right.
Exactly.
Is part of the master plan, and forgive me, but it hasn't been finalized, or
I think it has.
has it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, no,
Well,
the 20-year master plan, I think the township board approved it. Did they not?
I don't know, they kicked things around this summer, and I don't remember if it ever came up for a formal vote or not, because there are a few questions a couple people have, but if Mickey was here, she could tell us, but.
I know.
Yeah. Well, I guess where I was going with it, and there was comment on, like, there's a bike path committee, I believe,
Yes.
and, you know, people are looking for more access to green space, and how do we maybe partner with another committee and look to open up the green spaces even more by building more trails, maybe more sophisticated trails that aren't just gravel and, but maybe like a clay base, or that can be used, you know, for bikes or,
Oh, yeah,
or
right.
things like that.
I agree.
I think if we got into something like that, I would prefer to have BPAC to take the initiative on something like that, building something more than, say, a rustic
Right.
trail and that. Because I think that goes a bit beyond our scope of responsibility.
Yeah, I wouldn't
In a-
disagree
in a
with
way.
you there, but I think it
No,
would be
some good synergies.
in the green space area, so there's
Right,
got to be a
right.
joint
Yeah.
understanding or
Well,
a joint effort.
There's
a lot of,
well, let me just, the classic maybe example is that the Grosville Nature and Land Conservancy has the Bruce Jones kind of preserve right on Bridge Road. One of the things that we've been talking not only to the Nature and Land Conservancy, but also BPAC, is that it's a question of, okay, you need a safe way across the road, and that's, you know, obviously going to involve the township, the county, that's a county road, and then the Nature and Land Conservancy, okay? So you want people to be able, if you're riding your bike or walking, and that's a dangerous corner, so you want to make sure that so that's an example, but you're exactly right. You want to, you know, one of the reasons we're trying to work on that Parkway Macomb thing is to have greater access through biking or hiking or however you want to do so. And again, it will require, again, Wayne County may have to, when we finally get it done, put stuff on Grosville Parkway, because, you know, if all of a sudden you're riding your bike and you come blasting out on Grosville Parkway, it's like, hey, wait a minute, you're going to get killed, okay? Because, you know, you want to there has to be proper markings and proper signage and that for safety purposes going across, because we'd like it to connect to, what's the street right? That
Woodside?
runs north and south to the bike path. So if you go Woodside, this is the one right off of the First Street heading east and west, parallel to Grosville Parkway. Do we know that one? This is going to be our...
You mean the Parkway Drive or what?
Is it Parkway Drive?
I don't know
Yeah.
what you're
I think the
talking
north
about.
Something like that.
Or
No, right,
Bellevue?
right off Grosville Parkway. The First Street south of Grosse Parkway.
Oh, that little.
I know what you mean. Just
There's a
don't know
street,
the
there's
name.
houses there.
Yeah.
Bob's on it, he's looking it up.
I think it's
Very good.
Dallas?
Is that Dallas Drive?
No, Dallas is off of Woodside, I believe.
Yeah, well, I
It
think
goes Dallas and then
Parkway
Woodside.
Drive, yeah, Dallas Court.
But it's the one that runs east and west, it runs parallel. Here's Grosse Parkway.
Yeah,
Parkway Drive.
Oh, Parkway Drive.
Parkway Drive.
Parkway
Okay,
Drive.
so,
Drive.
good. All right, so it's
Runs
Parkway
east and west.
Drive.
I did remember right.
Very good. I don't,
Bravo.
okay. So anyway, yeah, because we want to direct them, so if you can ride your bike down Parkway Drive, okay, and then connect right to the bike path, so you got greater connectivity. You can ride there, you can go all the way to Macomb, you can go that way, you can take a shortcut, go through the woods and go to, besides Grandma's house, you can go to, Macomb. Good. Anything else on that one? So stay tuned for sure about, more about villages and taxes on Grosse Hill.
Well, when you say stay tuned, are we just gonna talk about it again, or do we have action between now and the
There'll
next
be
meeting?
an action item, I'm sure, when we have to have we might have to have a little powwow
Okay,
with the township manager and the township supervisor and the business manager about, okay, what can we do, when are we gonna do it, how are we gonna do it?
okay, we
So
need to get
that
some
will-
of that
we will-
info. Okay.
We will either be invited or we'll invite them to come and talk to us.
So we should also, as part of that discussion, just using next year as an example, and I'm not saying we're gonna go next year, but how much time before the actual election do we need to
Right.
submit whatever paperwork,
Right.
when do we need to get the process started so that it is on the ballot
On the
when we want
ballot,
it on the
right,
ballot?
right, yes.
Get a
It's a
timeline
process,
going.
believe me, right. And to my knowledge, no one that's on this board has gone through a millage for.
Not I.
Not I. Nobody. All right, there are no action items, any reports, anything going on in the high school? What's going on in the high school?
So I've been asking around, and I found a surprising amount of people that would be interested in joining a hiking club. So, looking at that going into November, once fall sports ends, I'm going to talk to Dr. Roscoe about being a teacher advisor for the club, which is needed. But yeah, that should be pretty interesting.
That would be cool. I know Dr. Roscoe, will probably have some meetings with her on the Environmental Awareness Club, I think, and some of the things that they will be doing.
Yeah.
I do know that Dr. Roscoe and the Environmental Awareness Club has approached the Grosse Hill Educational Foundation for some funding for either like for some field trips or for other like school supplies for doing field studies and things of that nature. So that would be good. Anything else besides it's also homecoming?
Yeah, busy week, yeah.
Fill us all in a little bit about that. What's going on?
So, not to brag, but my little brother's on the homecoming court. That's pretty.
Very nice.
Hey.
Hey, very good.
Let's see. The seniors won the powder puff game. That was pretty big. 20-0 blowout.
Oh,
Let's see. I don't know. It's been a busy week.
parade.
Yeah.
Can we have a parade coming up? What time's the parade? Do we know?
4:30.
4:30 parade
On Friday,
on Friday.
paint the town red.
Right, Paint the Town Red is happening. Game is at 7 against Monroe Jefferson.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
And the dance,
Dance 7 on Saturday.
7 o'clock at the high school gym.
High school gym. Yep.
Right.
I
Good.
do have a question about the high school.
Yes.
So when they built the new stadium, maybe you know this answer, somebody. I noticed that they cut down a bunch of the, just all cleared in the nature
Yeah,
area,
not-
the
not a
quote
bunch.
nature
They
area.
Cleared all that out.
Yeah.
They cleared it
and I'm
all
also-
out.
they're
So what's the
also-
plan for the nature area?
Honestly, I don't know, but I also know they're ripping down way more trees by the tennis courts. So
Wow,
that's kind of
I heard
sad.
that.
sad face.
There was, I don't know about the nature area, but there was supposed to be some landscaping planned behind the stands or on the east side of the stands and that. And apparently, at least I'm told that they ran out of money, so they just threw down some grass seed and that. So I would say, nature area or other, there isn't any necessary plans for
Yeah.
any additional landscaping work at this time.
Alicia, we gotta get on that.
Well,
That's all. I know it's not open space, but
gee, if
it
we
is,
weren't
it
running
is tied to,
a tough budget here, we would say, oh, we could allocate some
I know,
funds
right?
for, but it's
We
like,
can go help.
somebody else might have to step up on that one.
made me sad when I walked through
Yes,
there.
I hear you.
We need to chain ourselves to the trees by.
Yes, oh
tennis
God,
courts.
tell me about it, yes, I know, they're probably already gone. So Township Liaison, Michelle is, not with us. James, anything on community development?
No, just everything we already addressed
Okay,
today.
good, thank you on that. Mandy, what's happening with the Grosse Hill Nature and Land Conservancy?
Well, I do have some events I want to describe coming up, and I do want to mention one that was last Thursday. The Detroit River Public Advisory Council had a community forum at the Resource Center on Macomb Street. And I just want to describe it a little bit because it's really an important link for care of the river. That the Conservancy works in partnership with the Friends of the Detroit River, which leads and serves as the fiduciary for the Public Advisory Council. The PAC provides advice to state and federal agencies on issues of concern to local communities and reviews and helps write the remedial action plan. The Detroit River PAC is currently hosting community forums to raise awareness about the Detroit River area of concern. This has been going on for the past 2 decades of habitat restoration in the region and shares updates on current efforts and gather public input on future needs and visions. The goal is to inspire community involvement and align public interest with upcoming restoration and protection efforts. And it was an opportunity for residents to have a direct voice in shaping the future of the Detroit River. And this description reminds me very much of Dr. Bruce Jones, one of the founders of the Conservancy, and his view of the conservation crescent in the southern area of Grosse Hill and the islands, and to preserve the river. So that was, I was out of town, I was then unable to go, and I haven't had much feedback from it, but I thought I would read about, what it was about and what a good coalition it is.
Good.
Next Tuesday, the 14th, Wild Birds Unlimited at the Resource Center on Macomb. This educational event takes a lively look at our owls. Some of North America's most adaptable birds of prey. You can see them in forests, deserts, and sometimes glaring at you from a suburban light pole. You'll discover how they fly in complete silence, swivel their heads like they're auditioning for a scary movie, and use unevenly placed ears for 3D surround sound hunting. Along the way in this discussion, they'll bust a few myths, share some fun legends, and marvel at their 8-inch talons, all without needing night vision goggles ourselves.
And what time is that, please?
That is, yes, I'm sorry, I didn't give the time. It's 6 to 7:30 this coming Tuesday at the Resource Center.
Good.
Saturday, October 18th, the Stars and Stories at Centennial Farms. From 7 to 8:30 p.m. on a Saturday evening, about humans looking up at the night sky, asking questions, seeking answers, and telling stories. Let's look through some telescopes and talk about connections with the cosmos. And just jump ahead a little bit more, Saturday, November 8th, the Conservancy annual meeting and membership is at the Country Club on Bellevue Road. 10:30 to noon, doors open at 10. This is always a really big event and reminds me of the first one that we had when the Conservancy began. It's a good overview of the year. our accomplishments and plans for 2026. There's an election of board of directors, awards and recognition, and this year the special guest speaker is Mackenzie. Well, I'm not going to pronounce this right. Walzicki, Friends of Detroit River, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. Detroit River Revival, Restoring and Preserving a Living Legacy. And last thing, November 9th, on Sunday, the day after the annual meeting, there's an evening lantern hike at the airport natural area, adjacent to the Gibraltar Bay unit on East River Road. And it is from 5:30 to 7 on a Sunday night. And it is described as the nighttime is the right time time for a fall evening lantern hike to see and hear the sounds and activities of the night. So that's what's going on with the
Very good.
Conservatives, some of their programs.
A lot of things happening.
Yes.
Good, thank
This
you.
group.
All right, this is also our time for our second public comment period, and hearing none, I would like to make a motion to adjourn at 8:18.
So move.
Second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're done. Good, thank you.
Who seconded that?
Yolanda.
Okay.